Did 4?
4 of 7.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Quorum is 4.
It's not as fun.
Yeah, I've had a few meetings go south because of that. I was up there and it's like, nope, it's not. Yeah. It's so weird, like, yeah. You're from Canada, did we?
Anthony's coming.
Okay.
I live yesterday. So how is the roundabout progressing? Has anyone investigated?
Well, 2 people have driven through it, but I always had the nervous to do that.
I don't think it can right now.
But if they did, we could go.
Yeah, well, we could go look different.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, most of the east side lane has been completely demolished, taken down, and so it's dropped about like 3.5 feet.
So the leveling is starting.
The leveling is starting, now they're gonna, yeah, but they had to replace a sizable chunk of water main. So that was like a little delicate project, but now they can move on to demolishing the rest.
It's gonna be amazing. Did you see him live today?
I saw it yesterday,
Okay.
yeah,
That's live.
yeah.
What was that about?
It was just more grousing about the businesses and the attached. But there's new signs up, handmade,
I know, I saw that.
I mean, I think that's okay.
All communities when there's construction of business. I don't know of any community when they do. The businesses are affected.
I know, it is like, I mean, Halligan, downtown Halligan, but that's.
Well,
Oh, years.
196 business up in
Oh, yeah, that whole
Terrible.
Chicago Drive. It's not just.
And they did it during tourist time.
Right, well, that was so.
It was terrible.
We'll have ours doing it with the dog.
Well, this won't be done by July.
Peel out, slide that down, and that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's cool.
And if there's been delays, we don't want to know.
The rain yesterday didn't cause anything delayed.
Anything what?
Rain yesterday. Didn't create any delays.
Oh, and still construction, so that would be really great. Imagine, yeah, it was quite a downpour, but it's short.
Yeah.
Then the sun. Little strange couple of days.
We got 2 minutes.
We're on so early today.
Huh?
We're on so early today.
Oh, I know.
I did. It was really cool, but I missed the aurora.
Oh,
The aurora.
here, I tried, but I guess we did it really.
Like I can only.
saw it over. The eclipse here
I think you did it right.
was nothing.
It was nighttime, I didn't see anything.
It was a semi-dusk of the birds. It was cool, but some was
The
still
full, I have pictures of the full. If
in
you wanna
Mexico.
see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, we went to Cleveland and it was full,
Wow.
that's.
Yeah, not here.
It's a big difference, 99, anything less than 100.
Oh, yeah.
You're right, yeah, like, it doesn't really change until you get to 19. It's just, it's amazing, how we were set up, it changes.
We were probably.
So it's.
I was in London.
I saw it on TV. So,
All right, don't get me in trouble.
okay.
Using that clock, I did that.
We got 3 of them. We don't have like an analog one anywhere, but we got the
We
digital.
should. We always did. It helped.
It'd be nice. I think I'm done on that one. So.
Well, it's 6 o'clock, so we might as well get this meeting on order. This is the planning commission regular meeting of Tuesday, May 21st. Our chair and vice chair are absent today. I'm the secretary, so that's why I'm running the meeting this evening. Okay. So, first order is roll call, which I'll do roll calls, that's my job anyways. Mr. Butler is absent. Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. Helmrich?
Here.
Mr. Eiley is absent. Mr. Stannis?
Here.
Denise Webster's here, and Mr. Worth.
Here.
Okay. Next order of business is really to stand and we'll do pledge of allegiance. So if those in the audience would stand and join us, we appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Thank you. Our next order of business is the approval of the agenda. Do you have any additions? Is there anything that we wish to add? Hearing nothing, I need a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Ward
Second.
and Mr. Stannis. All in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The stands approved. The approval of the minutes of March 18th, 2024. Oh, the agenda says the 18th is the 19th.
Oh, the minutes are nice.
So is it the 19th? Okay. March 19th then. Okay. Page 1, is there any corrections on page 1? Now on page 2. Now on page 3. Page 4. Hearing no stages, I need a motion to approve. Mr. Cannis,
Second.
Mr. Worth. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You stand. Thank you, Morgan, as always. I will open the meeting at this time for a public comment. The planning commission requests that speakers respect the 3 minutes time limit for the individual comments and a 5 minute time limit for an individual who might be speaking for a group. This is not a question and answer session. It is the opportunity for you to voice your thoughts with the planning commission. Please know that we do have a public hearing for the condominium that's on our agenda. So if you have any comments regarding that particular project, we wait until the public hearing. So at this time, I'm happy to open the public comments. Anybody on, sir, on the row 1?
No.
No, row 2?
I did have a comment about the condo, I don't know. if I-
No, you can wait until the public hearing, because we do have another time you have a public hearing, which we would allow you to speak.
But you can do it now if you'd like, right?
No,
Well,
Is it today?
yes,
Oh,
it's like in 20 minutes.
yes, it's on our agenda, yes. Next row. If you would, to come up forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Thanks. Good evening, I'm David Swan. I live at 876 Park Street in the city of Saugatuck. This evening, I'll speak on behalf of the Saugatuck Dunes Coastal Alliance, and I'd like to make 2 points, 2 fairly quick points. First, I'm asking that the minutes of the March 19th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting be corrected to more accurately reflect the letter I submitted and the comments I made during the public comment portion. As you may recall, I requested the Planning Commission terminate the North Shore of Saugatuck special land use approval because the property owner has violated section 40693 by not requesting an extension of the special land use approval. The minutes should reflect that the property owner has never requested an extension as required. It should also reference the letter I submitted and I'm submitting again this evening. To further document the fact the applicant has never requested a necessary extension, we are also submitting a copy of an email exchange between Lori Babinski and me, in which she confirms that the applicant never communicated the need for an extension to the zoning administrator or the planning commission. Second, I want to follow up on the Commission Chair Dave Eiley's request at the March 19th meeting that the zoning administrator ensure that the final area of the Van Horn Sand Dune Mine Pond accurately reflects what was approved. We would like to submit for your review and for the record 2 documents from the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy that show the excavated Van Horn Pond is actually 6.7 acres, which is 34% larger than the 4.9 acres as was approved by this commission in 2018. We encourage the township to take action against the Van Horn sand dune mining operation for inaccurately portraying the size of the pond and inaccurately portraying it in their application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And
Thank you. Is there anybody else, here who wish to address the, planning commission? Morgan, is there anybody on Zoom who wish to, address the planning commission during public comments?
If anyone on Zoom wants to make public comment, please raise your hand. Going once. Going twice.
Nope.
Done.
Okay, so with that, then I will close the, public comments. Our next order of business is, new business. Mr. Ralph.
Okay, thank you. We also have the applicant here today. The request you have on your agenda is for Best Buds. They have submitted a request for extension of their site plan approval. Their letter outlines the challenges they have faced with the development and construction process. They remain committed and seek a 1-year extension, which would expire May 20th, 2025. We recommend a 1-year extension for section 14-70C of the zoning ordinance due to unforeseen circumstances.
Any comments from the, commissioners? Well, with that, I need a motion for the,
I did have a question, I've lost track of. Several months ago on this issue, there was questions about mapping out where the drains are. Did that happen? There was disagreement between neighbors and these property owners.
It's my recollection that that was addressed during the site plan review process where the engineer for the applicant came to the meeting. We were at the high school and they furnished, they did a site walk and furnished the mapping of where the drain was located.
Okay, so that seems to be resolved.
It's resolved, yeah, they received written approval from the township engineer.
Okay, thank you.
any other questions from the commissioners?
I have one question. Point 4 from, this is the letter from the attorneys, April 12th. And they're detailing rationale for delays and so forth. Can someone help me understand what number 4 means? Not having the loan to pay over $300,000. Not having the loan, so the ability to secure a loan to pay $300,000 worth of bills. Is that how I should interpret that?
You may ask the applicant, I do not know what that is in reference to. I was assuming it was related to their own business model and costs associated with their construction process.
Does the applicant wish to clarify?
That's correct, what she's saying, we're just trying to get the, a loan to try to get some of the construction going, and we went from 1 million to 1.5, and then we ended up, with somebody else saying that 300,000, so we've been just trying to get approval on I'm part of the construction.
Again, this speaks to, I'm sorry, the cost of construction, labor, materials is just this, constantly in flux and increasing. And so, that certainly, it sounds like what.
Yeah, if we go with one of the, contractor that we called up to see, what it would cost us, they were telling us from 1 million to 1.5. So,
Big swing.
yeah. Yeah, it's bigger than what we thought, but we're working already with different guys that my husband works with already, so they're gonna give us a hand so we can put it all together.
I was gonna be kind of heavy, but the numbering from the lawyer, there's 2 sets of 3, 4, and 5s. I think they would have caught that.
I saw that too, but,
Well,
Yeah.
those things happen.
well, I would think from a lawyer's perspective it does, but for us, I'm not thinking. It doesn't change the request.
No.
So with that, if you have no other questions, I need a motion to approve the extension for Best Buds, to, 2025. Is that right?
Correct, May 20th, 2025.
Okay, so I need a motion,
Motion to approve?
okay, to May 20th, 2025. Okay. And do I have a second support?
Support.
Mr. Stannis? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Pass. Okay, hope it happens.
Yes, we hope that too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next order of business is the public hearing and consideration of the site condominium request of Meadow Woods. The applicant is Rick and Kathy Gillette. It's parcel 20-275-00002. So what we will do first is the applicant wishes to create a presentation, or do we first and then you, or is it the other way around?
Present first.
Okay, and then we have Ms. Wells, talk to the commissioners about the project, and we certainly will then open it up for public comment in regards to this project. You could state your name, so we know who you are. Sure.
So my name is Chuck Hoyt. I am from Nadervelt. And I'm here on behalf of Rick and Kathy, who may or may not have a few words to kind of speak at the end of my brief presentation. But I'll just chat a little bit about our application for the Meadow Woods project, which strangely enough, it's the Meadow Woods project, but no, the road name is Meadow Wood. Just to make it confusing. The name of the project is plural, the name of the road is singular, for whatever reason, that's just how it's been. But, the project itself is actually, kind of been in place, and it's been approved PUD since about 2008. The initial sort of iteration of this plan was, duplex condominium units. In sort of a different sort of orientation that we see in our application. I think what, Rick and Kathy found is, after the initial sale of a couple of the duplex units, that on top of the fact that it was 2008, 2009, they ran into difficulties with this project, and it's sort of just sat stagnant since then. So at long last, we're here to present some new ideas for this project, some improvements, we think, and something that will, I think, get some sales out of this project and really see it come to fruition. So big picture, the changes that you see to this plan, to this PUD, is really going from a traditional condominium setup to site condominiums. And I think you're probably all familiar with that, but there's some key differences in what that really means, right? So traditional condominiums allows you to do certain product types like duplex units, right? Where you have shared walls and your ownership of your unit is really your unit boundaries, right? It's the end of your walls and your windows, so to speak, right? Site condominiums are just a little bit different, a different form of ownership in that you own your entire home. And you own your land as well. You own your lot, right? You own property, but you still are subject to a master deed and bylaws. So there's no difference in that, in terms of sort of the operations of this project in that it'll still be condominium, there will still be a master deed and bylaws. It'll simply just be adjusted slightly, because of the type of ownership that you have to have, for duplex units now changing over to site condominium units, that is just a little bit more of a familiar type product. I think that exists, particularly in Saugatuck Township. But in terms of people who want to buy land, want to own their home, maybe want a little bit of distance between them and their neighbors. This setup, this product type, we think achieves that. So that's really the big picture of what they're looking to do with this project. But then, of course, there's site plan considerations. First of all, there's been changes since 2008 to certain codes. You know, we need to meet the current zoning ordinance. And we think we've done so in this application, and we're here tonight to talk about the details of that. And so there's a couple things that I want to touch on in terms of specifics on this project. You won't see it in that image because I have that up there for a very specific reason and it doesn't show the entire development. But the entry road, Meadowwood, remains the same, right? So there's no new curb cut that you're going to see. There is an existing home on that road, and that is basically the extent of how far the road exists today, right? So that road goes from 64th all the way just beyond where that existing duplex is. It's indicated as units 1 and 2 on this plan. This proposed plan extends that road and it extends it to the cul-de-sac that you see in the location at the bottom left-hand corner of that image. But it's really just a road extension, and the idea of that is to get to more of the site condominium units.
It's off 63rd.
63rd.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
6 Meadow.
I just wanted to make sure it's.
So you go up Old Allegan Road and turn on 63rd, is that correct?
Yes.
And how far down is more or less?
How far is the length of the road?
No, I know how long the road is. Where is this site? I can't tell from the maps where it is.
About a half mile.
So.
North of Old Allegan.
Down 63rd.
No.
It's south of the.
North of. Whatever that, can we pull up Google Maps? No, is there a map right in front of us?
M89. M89, that's what it is. Half mile north of M89.
Oh, yeah, yeah, so
So
it wouldn't
you
actually,
don't get to it from Old Allegan.
you can.
No, it's south of the river.
Okay, that wasn't clear either.
I had to look it up.
Yeah.
When I could.
And none of the materials show street names that I could see.
And funny enough, on your zoning maps and future land use maps, and this one pictured right here, has Meadowwood Road, and it shows all of the actual duplex units on the
Okay,
property,
all right.
strangely enough, so you can see.
Oh, there, I saw, no, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, that guy right.
Oh, so it's near Peachfeld and M80.
Great.
Yeah,
So down from Frank.
Got it, thank
so
you.
that's how the unit
Right.
oriented that's shown.
No, and just so you're aware, you probably know this. This is approved in 2008. No one in this room was on the planning commission then, nor was anyone on our board. So we don't know the history.
Oh,
Okay, but you're helping, so thank you.
That's
That's a long time. That's a long time
A
ago.
long time. So again, the road has existed, we're just going to extend that. There is uniquely on this project, on this property, a communal septic system. So it's basically a sort of a spot that captures all of the sewer water. And it's just sort of north and west within that open space area of Unit 7. That's all captured there. It's actually been inspected recently as a requirement of this submittal. So that documentation is in your packet as well. It's been documented as well that the communal system has the capacity to accommodate the number of site condominium units that are proposed within this project. This gentleman has a question.
Couple of questions. One is, you said there's 2 duplexes currently built, right?
Yes,
So when this goes.
2 duplex units.
Units, okay. What happens to the property around them? They still stay as a conduit unit on somebody else on the common property, or they have their own property?
Glad you asked. I'm going to get to that.
Okay,
Sure. Because there is some trickiness to that. That was sort of one of the hurdles that we had to jump through. And we've been working with a real estate attorney who has not only communicated directly with your township attorney, but updated the master deed, provided that documentation. That's why your packet was so heavy, I think, is because there was so many of the master deeds. Yeah, tons of amendments to it. I'm sure you've read every word of it.
Yeah.
So the second question I had is the plan versus what was in place before with all duplexes. This will be roughly half as many families.
It will. It is a reduction. I don't think it's half.
Approximately, yeah.
So what did we have before?
Right, before you were approved for 14 dwellings.
Oh, yeah, so there you go.
7 buildings, 2 in each, it's the same number.
Yeah, same
So there's
density.
still gonna be 14.
Same number, they're
Okay,
just
alright.
detached, single family.
I thought there were a couple more duplexes originally approved, but if it's the same number, then there you go. So you know what, go ahead.
Can I ask you a quick
Yeah,
question?
yeah.
From Dylan, wait. Nail this short question. So is it the general idea to provide a unit around the dwellings or the 2 existing properties so that everyone's equal?
Let's just get into it right now. And I can
Is
show you.
that the basic general idea? Because it would seem very unfortunate for 2 dwellings to have be second-class citizens in a few.
Yeah, so, and this gets a little tricky. Sorry, Lene. Do you want me to, we want how do you want me to orient?
Just more against that wall and everybody can see.
More against the wall? All right. So this depicts the proposed revised swing around. This depicts the proposed we call it the exhibit B, right? The exhibit B is a very specific term that goes along with the master deed and the bylaws, we call them the condo docs, right? So this is our proposed exhibit B. What we don't show is what is existing right now. I do have a sheet that I can show you right now, but if you can imagine how it sits right now, you have units 1 and 2 right here. Those are the only 2 existing duplexes. Everything on this entire site, all around them is considered general common element, right? General common element meaning any other condo unit in there, if, you know, because duplexes could be built all around here. They all enjoy the same rights to that property. So if I'm a duplex unit owner up here, I have the same rights to this bit of land all the way to the property line, same as 1 and 2. That's how it exists today. Our revisions contemplate this. These are all new site condominium units. So if you're condominium unit, if you are site condominium unit owner number 5, you have your boundaries of your property. And then you have limited common element, general common element to the open space.
So the units going in are houses.
Yeah, these are homes.
Yes.
Yep, not duplexes, regular houses. I mean, when you drive through a site condominium unit, it looks just like any other neighborhood. It could be a plat, it could be anything in the world. The only, sometimes the difference you'll see is a lot of times there's, common maintenance to the yards. So a lot of plantings are the same. The architecture is very similar, right? A lot of times, but that all depends on what the master deed and bylaws state, right? You could have a site condominium unit that doesn't look anything, you would never guess that it was.
So by definition, for lack of a better term, the lot is the unit and you build a dwelling within the unit. And you just have to abide by setbacks and all that kind of stuff, right?
You own your home, you own your land, you're just subject to a master deed and bylaws, right?
So my next question is, does anyone have limited common element associated with their unit?
Yes, only units 1 and 2, and that was the difference I was getting to. So again, imagine units 1 and 2, just outside of their home, in this green area and everywhere around is, today, it's general common element, meaning every condo unit owner has the same rights to it. Well, when we redesigned what we're doing here today, we thought, well, it makes more sense to give those unit owners who've been there for a long time and have sort of taken some ownership of that area. We should dedicate that area outside of their home specifically to their unit.
Right.
We can't really do the same thing as all the site, we couldn't turn this into a site condo. Because it's a duplex. So what we've done, and that's why I've indicated it in the blue and the green, and you can't see the writing here, but it says LCE to unit 1, LCE to unit 2. So what that means is. The blue is limited common element just to unit 1. So they, I won't say own, because ownership is a different thing than limited common element. They have rights to that area. It's, yeah, they can't,
But it's their lot.
yes.
They maintain it, they upgrade it.
Well, it's common element, so that's up to the association how they do it, but they are the only ones that enjoy the rights to.
It was limited common element.
It is limited to just there, so they, I mean, I'd have to talk to the attorney to see what their decision making power on it, but they have the right, if they wanted to put something up in their, you know, a swing set or something, they could do that. Right, so it's limited to just their use.
Okay.
None of these other condo owners have any right to use that area, to enjoy that area. It's just different than ownership because they couldn't split it and sell it and do
Yes.
anything.
Yes.
That's how the difference really is. So again, what we've attempted to do, and we think that it's a good solution, is that we've granted units 1 and 2 who've been there for a long time. Limited common elements around their property, so they kind of have that buffer, have that ownership of their property. And we've even created this area to meet the minimum lot size of what the zoning district called for, the agricultural, this is all zone ag. So we meet, including everything that you see here in the blue and the green, the 2.5 acre minimum acreage.
Oh, that's 2.5 acres then?
It's, well, it's
When you
2.7.
Yeah, oh, together. I see.
Yeah, this whole thing here, so we can kind of consider this one, and that seemed appropriate.
So all the other lots are 2.5 and these are each half that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the 2 existing duplexes or the one, what year were they built?
2008, 2009,
Right at the beginning,
I believe so,
and they've been occupied the whole time,
as
sorry,
far as I know.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
are you one of them? Are you
You're the
one of them?
Well, these are the applicants.
That's all right.
Oh, you're the
Yeah, if you wanna say hello.
All right, well, there's other people, okay,
Sorry,
that's okay.
I'm Rick, it's my wife Kathy.
Okay.
We started this back in 2007, actually, and 2008 hit and it didn't work out. So, and we've lived here for 41 years. I don't know if any of you know us, I think some of you do. We've lived here for 41 years, had 2 businesses, and then I'm a major owner in the brewery and ran the brewery for 14 years. And we partnered in this property 2007, maybe 2006 before we got started. And so now we're just trying to come to a point where we can market it, meet all the zoning ordinances, codes and everything. We put in the septic system back in 2008. And it was approved by the DEQ and township and everybody, I mean, it was all for the handle 14. So we were to that point, we have electric already in the road, and that was back in, and that's the, actually, Chuck said that's the actual road that was approved back in 2008. So now I'm retired from the brewery and I want to get going on this. We live an hour and a half north of them. So we're just trying to get this thing finalized with your help, and we'll do it however we need to.
What's the state of the road? Is it 1 coat of asphalt or 2 coats or just gravel?
It's halfway to the just past the duplex, it is asphalt. And then after that, there was nothing else going on, so it's just gravel and sand.
But the electrical is all the way to the end?
Comes in from the west, actually, so
Oh,
it's
okay.
almost basically just to the end. And the septic system is from the duplex all the way back, so there's just only the front part, the east part that has our pipes putting in. So it's pretty much,
A lot of the infrastructure is already
yes,
ready anyway.
yeah, and that was all approved, long time ago. And I got really busy with the brewery, so I kind of let this set. Yeah, the market wasn't great either.
Not in 2008.
So one of the things, if you go out there, that you'll see, other than the duplex, is pedestals, for the, electric scattered throughout the site, so it's kind of obvious, you can see, if you're on site. One other thing that this shows that a nice depiction of is the amount of open space that we provide with this site as well. It's over 10 acres of open space, which, you know, the intent is for, you know, community space. It's unprogrammed, right? We wanted to keep it natural. We didn't want to, you know, disturb any of the trees.
What's required? Is
None.
the 10, none is required?
No. No.
I thought there had to be a certain amount of general common element for a PUD.
This is not a PUD, it's just a straight site
Oh,
covenant.
my bad.
So a couple other things to point out that you'll see in your packet, and it'll get 22 actually. Are we good on this? Any other questions on the condominium portion of this?
I guess I just have, I mean, that is a generous amount of general common element. Is it undevelopable? Is that why it's left that way? Because you put a couple of extra units back there if you want.
There's a lot of trees. The septic system is right here.
Okay.
So it's really not developable.
Oh, I
in
see.
this area.
Okay.
And I have to refer to the wetland map as well, which is what I was just about to get to.
There we go.
And thus the reason for some adjustments to the plan that you saw. So the reason I have this is because it represents a slight adjustment to what you have in your plan, and there is a reason for it. Right, so here you go. This is that open space, the 10.73 acres. These areas indicate identified wetland areas. Okay, and so on our plan originally, now, you know, we've understood in a lot of other developments and a lot of other communities that if you simply get an eagle permit for a driveway through a wetland, that is typically allowable, right? They'll work with you and allow you to do a driveway through wetlands. And that would really only have been necessary on unit 4. Because the idea was that the spot that made the most sense where somebody would build would be back in this area here. However, we understand that there's a section in your ordinance which does not allow for driveways to go through the riparian buffer, which in this case, obviously you have to go through the riparian buffer in order to get through the wetland. So we made some adjustments, okay? And so what we did is, you'll notice on your site plan, I think it's 180 feet wide of unit 4. Well, we widened that quite a bit, the 322. Now, you should understand that each one of these, the site condominium lots still meets the 2.5 acres necessary. But what it did is gave a significantly larger area to build on unit 4. And this is about 8,000 square feet. So you can pretty easily get your 2,500 square foot, 3,000 or really however big you want to go, home to be built in that location. And you still have nice building spots for 5, 6, and 7. So that's one difference that I wanted to show that is not shown in your packet, but a very recent adjustment that we made. I mean, the idea is there's wetlands on this site, there just is, and we don't want to disturb them. And we're required to stay out of them with that riparian buffer. So we've made that adjustment and we think that's an improvement as well. Okay. There's quite a long discussion with the fire marshal. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, that this took a little bit to get submitted. But ultimately, what we've settled upon is there's a series of, and really 2 storage tanks where these are water tanks that are going to be constructed and placed underground with a dry hydrant. And there's certain distances that we've, been sort of discussing with, and we think we're compliant with the requirements of the fire marshal. So those are a couple of things that we've had to do. Also, we committed to installing sprinkler systems in all of the new construction homes. So when these new homes are built on the site condominium units, they will be sprinkled as is required by the fire marshal. So again, we've provided a lot of the legal documentation from our attorney that sort of provides a legal mechanism for the adjustments that we're going to make. We've submitted for review, initial review to the township engineer. There's a handful of comments that are pretty much specific to items that get addressed during construction. A few, notes on the plan that we need to add. We have accommodated all stormwater on the site through a series of stormwater detention basins. So we are compliant with all the necessary standards for Allen County Drain Commission and the township engineering review. So we are seeking approval tonight for our site plan and site condominium proposal. And we can answer any other questions. I'll stick around.
I have one question.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier you had some difficulty in regards to this moving forward with the plan. What was the difficulty?
Did I say that?
Yes. Yes, you did. I wrote it down.
Fire department?
Well, yeah, so
Okay, my understanding is, is that the reason why it was associated with groundwater and weren't able to drill wells. Was that true?
no, that's not my understanding.
Okay.
What the difficulty that, and I gotta be careful on how I say this because I don't mean to put this on them, is that this system, this underwater storage system has never been installed anywhere that we know of. And those are the sort of questions, because it kind of caught us off guard as, so Naderville, we're civil engineers and we're surveyors and we're land planners. But we're not fire experts, right? And we needed to find a way to satisfy the requirement of the fire marshal. And I think even he needed to do some research, right? He had an idea of what he wanted, but it wasn't, very specific, right? We just say, okay, we'll show it, but he wasn't quite sure. So that took a little bit of time. And I don't mean to say that was a difficulty or something that caused any delays, but it was something that we needed to figure out. And, so for example, I made several calls to different fire contractors, right? Like Brigade Fire Protection and several fire protection contractors. They had never heard of it before and they had never gone through it and they weren't sure any standards that they needed to meet either.
I think Denise is referencing the 2008 and why construction didn't happen. I mean, were there issues with groundwater at that time? Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, it was the economy.
Okay.
The money.
Okay, thank you.
So do the lots have wells been installed yet, or will that happen as each lot goes towards building a house?
That would go with each house.
So, but right now, they're just the where the duplexes.
I realized I probably should have done my overview first.
No, I read everything, but it's confusing.
Try, we can.
It's confusing. And then in terms of the master septic system is in,
It's there.
but the connections will happen again as each property develops.
So there's force main that exists there right now and that gets extended as well.
Right, okay.
And if commissioners after Ms. Wells, it gives us some information, if you have other questions either to Renee or to the applicants, we can allow that to happen once we have.
Yeah, I realize I should have started because I would have clarified the PUD and the site condo and all that.
Well, next time we know.
Now we all know.
So we may ask.
We got there anyway.
We got there, this is a like condo project, so finishing a development that was approved in 2006. We talked about that this is detached, single family dwellings. When you look at the plans that were submitted, you know, the duplexes were sort of clustered a little bit more and closer to the ones that exist today, and so now with these individual lots, the homes will be a little bit more spread out on the site. Nevertheless, all of the lot sizes and widths meet our zoning ordinance. Site condos are a two-step process. So our zoning ordinance requires a public hearing for the preliminary site condo plan, and that's what you have tonight. Then you can attach conditions to it, and then they have 1 year to come back with their final condominium plan, and that's gonna have more details. It'll have the final drawings. We require a performance guarantee to make sure that all the infrastructure is put in. So that'll be a bit more detailed plan, although this is very detailed, so you probably won't be very long before you come back with your final. We looked at the review standards in section 1740. And as Chuck mentioned, we have had iterations internally with our engineer, our attorney, and the fire district. So this has been reviewed, so it was ready for you, so we weren't doing a lot of changes at the last minute. So, Chuck mentioned that he has received a copy of this memo and all of the reviews from the other entities, and they're already working on making the changes, so, we felt that generally speaking, it could be approved with conditions, and there's a list of 15. It seems like a lot, many of them are general conditions that we put on all the projects, but the first 6, or first 5 are real specific to this, and I'll go through them with you. Chuck already mentioned lot number 4, so that is the lot that has it would have had a crossing, a wetland crossing, and we flagged that and said, we're gonna need to see a buildable area outside of that wetland so that the wetlands aren't disturbed. So they're making that change or already made that change. I haven't, tonight's the first time I saw it, but I'm confident that in the final, it'll work. Access to lot 3, that's this lot here, which abuts 63rd. We put that condition in just to ensure that the driveway for lot 3 doesn't go out to 63rd. We don't want 2 driveways next to each other. We want it to come off the private road. Number 3, we'd like to see not on the plan that is recorded in the master deed or bylaws, but we'd like to have a final condominium illustrative plan that shows the building footprints and driveways, just to ensure that it is possible to meet our setbacks. And so when somebody comes in to buy a lot, they know more or less where they could fit the property. It's most relevant to these units where there are wetlands, but it would just be helpful to show as an illustration. The number 4 is general, that mentions that, you know, setbacks, driveway, all of that needs to meet our zoning ordinance. Number 6, when we get the final master deed and bylaws, and we've already reviewed them initially and they look good, but we want to make sure that because there are wetlands and these natural features, that the master deed and bylaws references those and the setback area. We don't want a situation where a homeowner comes in, cites their house, and then submits their plans, and we say, well, you're within the wetland, the 75-foot wetland buffer. It would be good to have those in those documents, so when they're buying the property, they know ahead of time. I mean, it is on them at the end of the day, but it's helpful to put it in those documents, especially for the association, you know, down the road when the developer is done selling the lots. The rest of the reviews are pretty general. We do wanna make sure when they come back that they have all the required, permits and, anything needed just with that community system. We won't need to see their well permit until people come in with their, house plans. And, yeah, otherwise we found it, pretty complete.
So just to clarify, is there a solution at hand for the fire protection reservoir or tanks, or is that still gonna be figured out?
They proposed the solution, they've been working with Chris Mantles, and Chris is reviewing the solution
So
now.
they got something in mind.
That is something, so that's why we do have the condition still about meeting the requirements of the fire district. So when they come back with their final, we'll have all that signed off.
Lene, I'm looking at, our Article 3 in regards to single family, because it can be considered a single family dwelling, correct? So do the buildings in regards to the variety and these, they would have to show us what kind of structures are going to be put on there, and again, if they're looking at, well, 14 and 11, they have to have a minimum of 4 house models.
So
Am I looking at that, am I, Article 3 is on page 380, do they fall under that or not?
correct, with the 11 to, correct, so they already have one model of the duplex.
Yes.
So they would have to have 3 other house models. And that would be something that that's why we put the standard in here about building architecture,
Okay, I
driveway signage.
Yep.
I appreciate you bringing it up now, we're gonna have to, this is a little bit in the weeds, but when we work through our building permit software, we can flag parcels, and it has a ribbon across the computer when that parcel comes up. And that flag would say, see the conditions list, check for the models.
I got a question for the developer. Is the intention to build homes with certain models in place, or is these all gonna be custom homes up to the buyer, the block to them?
Custom up to the buyer. So
Custom up to the buyer, so it's irrelevant.
Yeah, we'll probably have it. It's a good, in case something else happens with the market, we still wanna have that condition, but yeah, ideally, it sounds like they'll have very different homes.
but
But this would apply in a.
this would apply.
If they're
We still have to make sure
That's the-
that I understand the custom homes, but they still have to comply with the condominium project. It's not a subdivision in regards to a regular,
Just a land
How can a custom home, how can a custom home?
I don't know, we have that in there, so.
If it turns into a production builder,
And that might happen, we
yeah, that
don't,
might happen, but right now, you wanna go custom.
yeah, that's what they're
That's-
saying, but exactly.
It's got 14 different.
Amen.
There would have to be at least 4 there.
Yeah,
Yes.
but on-site condo projects, PUDs, any type of, residential development, this section does apply, other than someone doing a land division and building a house.
Yes, yes.
So I think, Rick, you mentioned that you guys live an hour and a half north or something like that, so you're gonna be the developer, right? That's, you're the developer.
we're the owners.
Yep, and then am I correct assuming that you're gonna stop being a developer at some point and put a board of directors in place?
Well,
To run it?
yeah, the HOA, we have to turn over to the association after 75% of the, or before, turn it over to the HOA.
Okay, and so
I
my,
have no intention of running.
Yeah.
Other than, no.
and then
I thought I read somewhere where patios and decks.
in limited common elements, or in the lots, same thing. Become limited common elements, I was confused by that, can you help me out?
That might have been the old documents.
Yeah, where you
I don't have it, I was scrolling through. hundreds of pages on
You were probably reading the old master deed, where that is
it. Thanks.
the nature of a traditional condominium setup. You can see, you'll see like cross sections of the buildings and all that stuff, and like driveways are limited coming out.
Yes.
That's not the
That's
case
also-
here, right? You build a deck on your home on lot 5, that's yours on your property.
Makes total sense. That was mixed apples and oranges. And then last question, it's kind of a detailed one, but I came across something that spoke to dogs. And that no one can have a dog without prior approval from the board of directors.
No, I think it was dog run.
Dog runs. Because what I thought I read was you need prior permission from the DOD to get a dog. And then you get a dog. And I just wondered what the criteria was, and then you get a dog, and then they can revoke the permission to have a dog, and now someone's stuck with a dog. They can't. Guys move.
I would not put that in there. It's, I think what you might have seen as a dog run. Putting in a dog run, our intention there was I gotta put it up next to another person's house.
Yeah, right.
To infringe on their.
Right.
Hundred.
Thank you. I'll double check that and make sure you're right. That makes a lot more sense. Am I allowed to ask a question?
Yeah, I think.
Well, if we ever, I can open this up for a public hearing, because it does require. a
So I
public
just
hearing.
have a question out of curiosity.
Do you mind, going to the podium?
Yeah, and say your name and address.
Yeah, Peter Davis, I live in Grand Rapids. Yeah,
Can you give your actually street address?
sure, 1618 Hillsborough Avenue, Southeast Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Thank you,
Um,
thank you.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, so. Why is it, as we were just discussing, why is it a condo development rather than just subdividing and selling the lots off?
I
Or is
can
there like,
answer
in
that.
this case, you said that or something?
Ms. Wells will answer that question.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
if,
yeah,
yeah,
just got
that's fine, yeah. The. If you were to do a land division, and they've already done 2, I guess, for the duplex. The land division act limits how many divisions you can do based on the overall acreage of the parcel. So with a parcel of that size, they would be able to do maybe 6 divisions, so 4 more. And so they'd be much larger lots, even though by our ordinance, you can do the 2.5 acre lots. So you would take the 50 acres and you could divide it into 4 more. So your lots are gonna be.
By doing the condo.
No, by doing a land division, like you
Okay.
said, doing that. So for the market, for what Rick is looking for, he's looking for lots that are smaller and to utilize the site condominium tool to achieve what's permitted by the zoning, the 2.5 acre lots. And then you lay it out and have the 14 sites.
Okay.
So, both are tools for dividing land and conveying land. The land division is governed by the state of Michigan, and there's a mathematical equation as to how many you can do based on the acreage. Whereas if you use the land division or the site condo through the township, you can have the lot sizes in the agricultural district smaller and a private road and use that tool with the master-deed bylaw.
Cool, thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience who wish to make a comment in regards to this project?
I would,
Okay, if you would, at the podium and then state your name and address.
Richard Renowski, 6390 126th Avenue. I own 114 acres directly above the parcel that's being developed. I was notified of this meeting in the mail. I didn't know that back in 2008, I wasn't notified of that. We owned the property since 1995. A lot of the descriptions given today alleviated a lot of our concerns that we had coming in. I still have some overall concerns. I think We're already past the point of denying this development since it was approved in 2008, but I'll just state for the record that I don't see how this is consistent with an agricultural zoning area. You're supposed to preserve farmland. I won't read your own zoning ordinance, but you refer to your zoning ordinance and the master plan. It is intended to keep it open space and farmland if possible. So overall, I don't think this is consistent with that. So I just wanted to say that. My other concern was the properties that are built being turned into short-term rentals. So you essentially have a hotel type situation where they are. It doesn't sound like that's going to be the case, but I can envision that being the case. And I'd also like, since my property is to the north, I'd also just like the owners to be aware of where the property is, and even though there's a wooded section on wetlands between my farmland and the property in question, if they could be cognizant of the fact that somebody does live north of there, especially if they're going target shooting or hunting. You know, I could literally be walking past there or the tractor could be going by. So I don't know if you can put one of the conditions.
They can't discharge a gun on that property.
I got that from seeing there that I think it's within 450 feet of a building, you can't discharge a gun. So
That's right.
I just wanted to
I don't think anywhere on the property can you just, I read that in the bylaws.
We restricted, the rentals, you cannot have rentals, that's in our bylaws.
Okay.
In the bylaws say you can
No.
rent, but not less than 180 days. That's what I remember. Wasn't there language about the number of days?
So you cannot rent,
Okay,
And you can't have a long-term rental, right?
no rentals, period.
Period, okay, and that's gonna be in your bylaws.
And-
So your property managing group and in regards to your HOA will have to monitor that to make sure that the rentals are occurring and that they're following their bylaws and so forth. I live in a condo in the HOA, and I get what your HOA has to do.
So if it's in the bylaws,
Yeah.
thank you
It is.
for pointing that out. That's-
And the firearms.
Not even a BB gun.
Yeah.
That's allowed anywhere.
No, I don't know which one.
And I'd like, my last concern probably be more for people buying it, potable water. I don't think it was, you know, you're gonna use well water. I don't know what that's gonna do to the water table. You know, I'd be concerned if I were even about getting a well, maybe have to probably go pretty deep there. But thanks for your time and thanks for explaining that.
No, we said all those things about bylaws. The new BOD of the HOA can allow short-term rentals 4 years from now. They can vote and change it, correct? I don't.
The entire association has to approve it. So yes, if you're, all of those people, yes,
Yeah.
they could.
And then
I guess technically they could.
it's already talked out in terms of bylaws.
Pardon me?
So the bylaw, they can change their own rules and it doesn't have to come back before the board.
Correct.
They can, but everybody in the HOA has to approve it.
It's an amendment to the bylaws made by the board of directors with a vote from the members of the
Yes, so,
association. I just wanted to make sure this is what's the intention by the developers crystal clear.
Yeah.
That can change later. Not, E and G are not changing it, but
Would
somebody.
that be a unanimous? I'm gonna take.
well, it's the bylaw
I
says.
don't know if it's unanimous. It's just majority. So you might want to look at that. If you're really passionate about no rentals,
A lot
you
of
just
people
might
have to
want
be
to
what your HOA is.
write it carefully.
So if one person buys up all the lots and builds all the houses, and then they have unanimous power to vote however they want, that would be the worst case scenario.
Actually, only one, the board has to be at least 3 people. Board of directors has to be 3 people, and they can't be the same people. They have to be different people.
So own property on that.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks for pointing that out.
And most of your board of directors, unless, again, a lot of them all work differently, but they go with the owners of all the property and they, board of directors basically run the meeting and then vote as the property owners, and whether it has to be unanimous, that's in your bylaws, or more than a majority, so that's all gonna be in your HOA and the bylaws, so each one is gonna be a little different. And in regards to a buy-in and, you know, what the fees are, I mean, that's all associated with your HOA. Is there any other questions at this point? Well, I'll close the public hearing. I'm assuming there's nobody else here. Anybody on Zoom?
If anyone on Zoom wants to make a public comment, please raise your hand.
In regards to this project?
Going once. Going twice. Done.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing. Okay, so commissioners, any other comments, questions that you wish to have, either to Ms. Wells or to the applicant? Okay, then therefore I need a motion.
I motion to approve.
Okay, let's be specific in regards to what we're doing. We're approving the preliminary site plan review for this parcel.
Conditions,
Yeah.
14, is that correct?
The conditions
15.
as stated in the document from Ms. Wells. Okay. And they have 1 year to come back with their full site plan with that meets all the conditions, and at which time we would review.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so we got that motion?
Yes.
Does everybody understand the motion?
With all the conditions. everyone-
Yes.
I'll
Okay, there's support.
support that.
Okay, Mr. Helmer, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you have the approval of the preliminary site plan. And we will hope to see you back in less than a year.
Yeah, not 14,
Not so far since.
don't take 14 minutes this time, because we'll be
Yeah.
on again.
Can beat that.
And you have all the documents in regards to the conditions? Do you understand the conditions?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
There are two things that I want to quick clarify though.
Okay,
It's 75-foot buffer. That's the
I think that's the buffer in our zoning ordinance.
For wetlands?
Yeah.
riparian buffer says 25. Is that right?
I'm getting used to this new order. That's justified.
yeah.
Nothing more than what's in here. We have a minimum,
11.6.
that's page 3-5, 40, I'm sorry, 40. It's a 40 foot. All other inland lakes, streams and wetlands, 40 feet.
Section 11.6 says 25, right? 11.6 riparian buffer, a 25-foot natural riparian buffer vegetated with herbaceous and woody plants, blah, blah, blah. So when I heard 75, that sounded like a lot.
Yeah, so this setback is in our lot building and siting requirements for single and two family. So the 40 feet,
So the building is 40 feet. The riparian buffer is 25.
25.
Got it. Just one other quick thing to clarify, we talked about this 4 model design requirement. Our understanding is that gets handled at time of building permit application.
Correct.
Very good, thank you.
Okay.
Do you want the board or do you want me to take it?
I think you can take it.
Okay.
All right, regarding the continuing under this agenda, under old business, as a discussion of moratorium. Ms. Wells.
Okay. I provided a memo in your packet. At the March 13th Township Board meeting, a 6-month moratorium on development that involves excavation, physical alteration, or increases the linear feet of frontage on Lake Michigan, or for development within the state of Michigan designated critical dune area that does not comply with the zoning ordinance, nor is subject to the consent judgment between the Singapore Dunes and the township. So we're in a moratorium phase right now. We set up that moratorium because we had two topics that we wanted to address. One of them is the section 720 related to water frontage, anchoring, water access and docks. The planning commission recall that the planning commission opted to retain the language in the prior zoning ordinance. That's that language that says that, in any zoning district where there is an intent to create a use or lot or parcel or condominium unit treated as a lot or parcel, easement, private park, or common area for the purpose of providing shared water frontage access by deed or otherwise, no canal or channel may be excavated for the purpose of increasing water frontage. So that's what's in our current ordinance. And it's the language from our previous ordinance. As to that topic, the recommendation is to keep what's in our current ordinance for now. We are still in a lawsuit. And the applicant or the defendant. Maybe they're the plaintiff, or,
Yeah,
okay,
we're the.
yeah, we're the plaintiff, appealed the decision of the, Eagle. And Army Corps, I'm not quite sure, I haven't seen the language, but it's an appeal. So, until that's resolved, the recommendation from our township attorney is just to keep this as is, so, the next item,
Before that, where do you want to take it? Do you need a motion to approve that particular or that recommendation associated with section 7.2? Do you need a motion?
I don't believe I do,
Okay.
because this is, we're not proposing any changes, and so we would just continue status quo. And, the moratorium is with the township board, but they would review our minutes and.
Do we need something that, a recommendation to the board that we,
Well, I think I could provide a memo that says
I thought we did this a meeting or two ago. I thought we.
that
we're
we're
just
supporting the moratorium?
revisiting, you guys, you wanted to revisit these topics during the moratorium period and make a determination one way or the other. So, yeah, if you wanna vote, perhaps that's.
Is that
helpful, just like-
helpful for the board that, yes, the planning commission does support the recommendation?
Well, we left it the way it is for now.
Yeah.
That's what the board approved and, but.
All right.
So the
So I
motion
don't
would be to
think
leave
we
it
need
as
to
is.
Yeah, but we do. It's stated in your memo, we will revisit it again.
Sure.
Mr. DeBrey, since you're with us, because I've forgotten, did we vote to end the moratorium or not yet?
No, so the way that the moratorium was set up, it just dissolves after 6 months.
And have we hit 6 months?
We have not
We're
hit
close,
6
right?
months.
No, it was adopted March 13th, 2024, that was in the.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
so I think it was set up with the understanding that like if there was no resolution reached by this body, it would just go away, the moratorium, we could move on because clearly it was too complicated of an issue to really tackle. And we also wanted to get further feedback from our attorney on the matter, because things were, at that time, there were a lot of things that were changing. Like we found out about a permit denial from Eagle and then the Army Corps that just impacts our case, which is now out of the courts and with the ZBA, but will be returning to the circuit court. So there's a lot of moving pieces with it.
okay, so I thought that it was helpful, but if not, move on with it, your memo's enough. Good.
So just tired, so the moratorium is only 2.5 months old?
Correct.
Okay, I thought we did it sooner.
Yeah, I just did
relative to
it.
the zoning,
I-
the ordinance review.
So
There are two different,
That was a different.
that was a moratorium on all commercial
Oh.
development projects.
That one's.
And that's
expired.
that's history,
This
yeah,
is a new one. That
Correct.
still has like 3.5, 4 months left.
correct.
I
Can
just
we,
didn't want to get to a point if we're changing, there's a public hearing, there's township board, I didn't think we needed.
can we lift it sooner if we want to, or is it,
Sure.
then
Yeah,
that would be
lift it.
by the board,
That would be by the board.
but right now
Correct.
it's almost halfway through.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we're two more.
Okay, so it sounds like that, am I getting the head nods, any opposition to the recommendation?
No opposition, just clarification. It says that no one can do anything to increase water frontage, correct? That's the big idea.
For the purpose, excavated for the purpose of increasing water frontage.
So by definition, that doesn't prevent someone from decreasing water frontage. And I'm just asking that as an unintended consequence, since we're not explicitly saying you can't decrease water frontage. If someone's property connects with water on a 45-degree angle and they want to increase the size of their property, they can fill in a body of water and technically decrease their frontage. Now they've just eaten into a lake or river or something. We don't want that to happen, so I just asked the question, should we say cannot increase or decrease their water frontage to prevent unintended consequences?
I think the goal was to not modify this language during this
Sure.
legal.
I get
Process.
that, but I'm just
I don't
bringing this
know,
up.
I think that is I'd have to think about that. I believe that any kind of filling of waterways that are regulated by the state would require permitting.
So there's another rule that prevents some of the.
Yeah,
Yeah, when
Yeah.
you mess with the water itself, the build structures out into the water, that's gonna trigger a review by the state.
Okay, cool, thanks.
okay. The next one is critical dune, and this is a little bit, more involved, in the way that I explain it. So, the previous zoning ordinance included a mapped critical dune overlay, and it referenced the MDEQ or Eagle overlay. So the state of Michigan has an official map. Our map had the same boundary. That boundary included parcels that were zoned. Some of them were commercial. Like, Mr. Bosgraff's commercial condos, right, that's C1. Some of those were zoned R3B, some of them were zoned R2. It was over an area that had many zoning districts. That's on the map. The text of the ordinance talked about the critical dune area and had regulations, but only for land in R3B.
Which is now our R4.
Yes,
Yes, okay, go ahead.
love it. Love this. So that language. So it was a little bit, unique, right? Because usually your map overlay would refer to text and apply to all the districts that were within that boundary. But ours was unique and said only the R3B, now R4. What did that language do? It said anything in there in the R3B needed planning commission approval. It said only 4 uses in the whole uses for R3B, R4. Only 4 could go in: single family, household pets, non-commercial recreation, PUDs. And it also said that anything there not only required planning commission approval, but it had to go through the PUD process. It also said the land area would have to be 2 acres, which was bigger than R3B. It said your lot width would be 150, your setbacks are 25, rear and side, or front are 50. It said that roads in there had to be in a trough
Yes, shall be located in.
and a natural gap. It said that it had to be paved, not gravel. It said that pathways would have to be in those troughs, that no ATVs would be allowed. These are excerpts, I just wanted to summarize. It said that buildings could only be where natural vegetation could be stabilized. So it had very specific standards for building and also process. We went through a review of this, and what we found is that during 2023, during the Singapore Dunes project, there was a consent agreement. And in that consent agreement, it speaks to the township's critical dune overlay provisions. And in this consent agreement, it states that the township never submitted their overlay rules to MDEQ, now Eagle, for approval. Eagle requires, if we're gonna regulate critical dunes, we have to have an ordinance that they approve. We never did that. We didn't do it subsequent to this consent agreement either. So that's number one. Yes,
It was 2013.
okay, thank you. Right here, did I say the wrong date?
You said 2023.
Oh.
Because one of my points is, that was over 10 years ago, and the consent agreement, I know it runs with the land, but it was with Aubrey McClendon's Singapore Dunes project.
Correct.
Nothing to do with the current owner and the current project.
Correct, but the Singapore Dunes, as you said,
It
this
runs-
is still the rules, we still have to, this is on top of any local zoning, this consent agreement prevails on those properties, right, which is basically North Shore and now the property that Andrea Crossman owns.
The former McClendon.
Former McClendon home. And even though this consent judgment is for those properties, the fact that the township never had our overlay approved or reviewed by Eagle is still an issue for all the other properties that are not subject to the consent agreement.
I have a quick question, sorry, I don't understand what a consent agreement is and who gives it to who.
It's basically an agreement between a property owner and the municipality that overrides any zoning or regulatory.
But that was done in federal court. It wasn't circuit or district, it was federal court.
And they can be done at any point level though, right?
This one, this was big.
This was big, so this is basically the zoning.
Okay.
For those properties.
And I believe
So the courts.
the gist there was
Create the consent.
houses, any number of houses were allowed. But things like a marina were separate, and that's what's still being hotly debated. That was not a given, that was not a part of the consent agreement, is my understanding, it's just to build houses.
Yeah, I'm only talking about the
I know.
critical dune part, the consent agreement, there are communities, I work in another one where we have consent agreements for 6 different major parcels of land, because back in 2013, 2008, there were lawsuits. The township denied a project, went to court, the remedy was negotiation and working out this agreement. Yeah. It can be amended only by the parties who signed it.
Yeah, unanimously, everybody.
So we have that, so we have in our old ordinance and this new one, critical dune standards that were not approved by Eagle, even though Eagle requires that. I said that right now in our ordinance, it only applies to R4. And R4, since we have North Shore and Crossman out, because they're consent agreement, the only other parcels, generally speaking, are Oxbow, Nancy Drum Trust, she's right on that kind of island. Dean and Norma Constance Trust, the city of Saugatuck, and Norton Cottage LLC. They're basically in that, Oxbow area with the hike, you know, they're down below the Eagle, or they're all here.
Okay,
There's only these, right?
Okay.
So what we're talking about now for critical dune only applies here because this is consent agreement.
Got it.
Okay. So, all the other land that's in the critical dune that's not zoned R4 is regulated by Eagle. What we've come to find out, as I mentioned right now, and our critical dune standards have not been reviewed by Eagle. If we want to take, Eagle has the authority to do their review and approval of projects in the critical dune. If a municipality wants to take that over, the municipality has to create an ordinance that's approved by Eagle. And that ordinance has to follow their model and cannot be more restrictive than what Eagle already does.
So that implies it can be less restrictive.
It cannot be either. It has to be
Exactly.
exactly what they do, and that is why only 3 communities in all of Michigan that have critical dunes, and it's up and down, do it on their own. Because I don't know, I would assume maybe they've realized that, and Cindy mentioned she knew someone who used to do it, and they said, we're gonna hand this back to Eagle.
Yes.
So. If we were to regulate critical dunes, we would need a model ordinance. That Eagle. I haven't seen a model ordinance, but they have all these rules. As to what needs to be in the model ordinance. That model ordinance is already what Eagle uses on their own. We need it approved by Eagle, and then we would be the ones having to do all the review, all the permitting, all the enforcement. Be experts on everything that is in the ordinance. So we asked, I guess the question is.
We do that.
Yeah.
What would be our motive to do that, right?
Correct, when we can't be more restrictive
Or less restrictive?
or less restrictive.
Okay, so what's the other bottom line is section 5.2 being struck? You take that out of the ordinance, is that what you're? Or is it has to be restated and make it very clear in regards to Eagle and that particular document? And that's the only way that overlay district can happen.
Yeah, so
So
I
I'm rewriting section 5.2, is that correct?
wanted to have the discussion about the direction, and then we could look at the mechanics of it. Essentially, it would be removing 5.2. Yeah, it would be removing 5.2. Or it would just say, we wouldn't even have to remove it, we could just modify the text and says, shall be regulated pursuant to, the Natural Resources Protection Act.
So basically, you're looking at probably if you were to keep section 5.2, the overlay is, everything's gonna be struck except for B, location. And we're gonna take the R4 zoning district out of the play, and basically, is this gonna be that just designated by the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy as designated by critical, that's all, a single statement.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, and I guess the reason of why we would still map it and have it in here is because I think that's helpful for property owners, right? And staff and others to know, oh, my land is in here.
Right.
I mean, it's only, again, that small area because the rest is,
So D, E, F, G. Basically, well, G could state statute, could stay, but basically everything else comes out, beach grass, assessment design.
they regulate all that,
So it'd be a civil, several statements in regards to making sure that, yes, we're gonna map it, but it's under this.
The other
That's
thing,
it.
yeah, the other thing, and I don't wanna dilute what we're talking about, but our township has two. Well, we have three. We have a natural river designation. We have critical dunes. We also have high risk erosion. I don't wanna bring in something we haven't all talked about yet, but I'm wondering. Would we want to map the high risk erosion? And also reference it in here?
I was thinking, especially with the Lakeshore Drive.
Yeah, so.
Cause we
I was thinking.
We already flagged, like I told you, how we flagged the parcels. Cindy did so much great work because Eagle gives us a list of parcel numbers. And we have a little ticker tape, anything that goes through. Again, out of the spirit of like transparency and often we have people come in who are not from Michigan, who are not familiar, at least it would be a little bit of an alert, okay? But
So you
anyway,
need a recommendation from us in regards to, is that we're gonna ask staff to come back to us in regards to what section 5.2 would now read within our ordinance. So we're very specific and we wanna also have her, investigate the high erosion area. And when regards to putting that in our ordinance.
Because the two issues.
Yes, yes, two different issues.
I have a question on, so 5.2 as now is the language that the planning commission and the board adopted, correct?
correct,
So, yeah, no, I just wanted to.
yeah.
Is there a downside to submitting it to Eagle for review? They'll probably take 2 years to do it. I'm just wondering, since we went through this whole process.
But that means we have to regulate it.
But not until it's approved,
Yeah, but then you
Right?
can regulate.
if it's
Right.
approved.
Yeah.
But might they say, well, we don't like it, and then we can retract it, I don't know, that's my.
So is the greater question then, do we want to, as a township, regulate? Critical dunes, we want to regulate.
Only if we think we could do a better job, because we're right here and
Right.
care more. That
Yeah,
kind
we
of,
are. And
I'm not saying it's a reason to do it, but.
I just don't see what's wrong. What's the negative in submitting it for their review? That doesn't mean it's passed. We're gonna have comments.
I can tell you after looking at the act that has many gaping holes.
You want to say that?
No, yeah, ours.
Oh, ours.
No, yeah,
But I don't understand, why is that coming up now? Did something,
probably because we've had so many changes in leadership and planners and.
what leadership are you talking?
It was also already in there, and we were making the assumption that it was in there legally, that we could do these things, only to find out that the township consented to the fact that actually we can't just create our own ordinance and regulate it the way that we want. We have to follow the state model, so I think it was a relic that we had faith had merit to it, only to find out that it should have been taken out years ago. And that's where the part of the confusion came in.
Again, it just seems odd that it's coming up after all this approval and all this review.
Well,
Well, again, anytime you evaluate something, you always, you know, it's nice that you're able to look at plans and whatever, you know, laws and so forth, and it's just like, well, that would have been nice, you know, 20 years ago, but well, I probably shouldn't have done that, but nothing came up that said no one really pushed the issue.
well, we hadn't had any development in the R3B within the critical dune area since I have been here, other than, we recently had a request for a land division with a private road on the McClendon property, the Crossville property. And so that gave us the opportunity to have a legal review of that private road. There was debate about paving the road, not paving the road, because our ordinance says you can pave it, Eagle says it doesn't have to be paved. So we went back through all these documents.
Is that the one with the funny name?
It was called Beach Monkey, and then
Thank
they
you.
changed the name, yeah,
Oh,
to that.
Do we have to change the,
No,
escrow
not
account? all right, well, they have an escrow account.
But they do,
Under
yeah.
Monkey Alley.
Yeah. So anyway, it's not that, I guess that's a good point, you know, asking why haven't we addressed this prior?
We'll have to wait for Mr. Stanis.
Oh, correct, because we don't have.
Oh. No, I wanted to make a comment on the critical dunes issue, just to make sure the other commissioners are aware. Well, two things, and Daniel, correct me if I have.
Yeah.
done this exactly. One, we're the recipient, we got a nice grant from NOAA, the National Oceanic Agency, federal government, relative to erosion study in River Bluff Park. That's on the river. That's not as well known as the issues you brought up with Lakeshore Drive. And on Lakeshore Drive, and this is pretty cool, this Friday, delegation of elected officials are coming here to tour the Lakeshore Drive area, specifically about erosion, hopefully helping us get more grants and elected support. Senator Stavino will be here.
Their staff. Their
Oh, staff, okay, staff. But our state rep Joey's coming, right, Joey Andrews?
Correct.
Okay, and our state senator, Eric Nesbitt?
I'm not sure,
Okay.
but there will be someone from his
All right,
office.
delegation, 2 board members, 3 would be important. And, Mr. DeFranco will be there, so, but I mean, that's just,
Great.
it's great,
Yeah.
both things are great.
Yeah.
And I wanna make sure y'all knew that, I'm all for
Okay, I'm gonna pull it
putting
back.
language on the erosion.
Okay. So, do you need a motion? Or do you just need a recommendation that, you know, come back, with
Yes.
what language for section 5.2? And we should, discuss with regards to adding a section associated with high erosion?
Perfect, okay, we'll do.
Yes, would everybody do that? Okay. Thank you. Okay, so the next part of your report is enforcement.
Let's see, we've got, oh, just
no, I'm
on the
sorry,
agenda,
we're under
we've got the
communications.
agenda. Yeah,
We're under communication right now?
correct.
We're done with it, okay. Yeah. So do we have any correspondence?
No,
I'm gonna hold on planning commission comments for right now. Township board report. We'll go with you. Yeah.
Don't despair, but since the last time we met here, there have been 3 board meetings. So I'm gonna limit this to highlights, not the detail that I had prepared. So the March meeting of the board was after, or just before. Anyway, but that's the one where the board approved the zoning. unanimously. And we had a public hearing on it. There were just a couple of really outspoken and agitated people, landowners, talking about the density issues and tree protection and the housing size minimum. But, like I said, it was unanimously approved. Let's see, and they knew about these two exceptions that we were just discussing here. Let's see, March, we approved the new cemetery landscape service agreement and request to go to the road commission to put up some no parking signs on Blue Star Highway, which is, it's kind of a moot point during the construction. And, that was the exciting parts of March. Then in April and May, some of the board actions that happened were, we recognized the interurbans Phyllis Yife for her years of service to the community, we gave her a proclamation. We're participating in the annual Household Hazardous Waste Day again. And we accepted a proposal. The board and our manager have started, I guess it's a 3-part governance excellent workshop. We had the first one, there's 2 more coming. And we approved a Blue Star Highway sidewalk design here at the Township Hall in 2025. And then we did an annual performance review of the manager. In May, the highlights, I guess, we once again proclaimed June as Pride Month in the township. We approved hiring of a part-time building inspector to work with Cindy and hopefully increase our code enforcement efforts. And let's see, Blue Star Trail repair. We approved installation of security cameras outside at the dog park, which is interesting. There's some vandalism issues. And we approved the Wiley Road water extension, which you probably know about. And this is good, it was in the newspaper too.
Why did we?
Yeah, that's to go down toward, well,
Got it.
I think we just paid the bill, it's done.
right.
Okay, thank you.
And then, no, but last year, the first time, Daniel submitted us to the Green Infrastructure and Sustainability Program for the state. And last year, we got a bronze medal, we got bronze certification. This year, we got silver. We moved up.
What does that mean?
It's a program run by the state of Michigan called Michigan Green Communities Challenge. And essentially they've set up different areas in like sustainability that help guide communities towards implementing more sustainable practices and sustainable developments. And there's various categories to kind of cover all different kinds of municipalities.
So what did we do to deserve the upgrade?
A lot of it was the completion or the adoption of the zoning ordinance. So last year, a lot of the things that we were reporting were in progress. This year, we could actually report that they were completed.
And the improvements in the remodel.
Yeah, we did some energy efficiency improvements in the remodel.
LED, better air quality, that
Mhm.
a lot.
Yeah, and we have some habitat restoration. We have a habitat restoration project coming up too. So that helped us. So it was by the skin of our teeth, we made silver, but we didn't make silver.
Well, it's great to jump off one in one.
Yes.
So those are my highlights. The next board meeting is June 12th, 6 o'clock right here. That will also be our annual truth and taxation public hearing on adopting a new budget for next fiscal year. And we will also be interviewing and hopefully selecting 2 planning commissioners to join this body. Or rejoin, as the case may be. We'll see. Yes.
Okay,
What happened to our safety study out in Blue Star?
so I have an update.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll give you an update.
Did any of you come to the Blue Star open house here?
Or not the survey?
No,
The survey's still out there.
yeah, so,
I'll take this.
I'll update, I'll,
Are you gonna do that?
yeah,
Oh,
I'll.
you?
I'll take it.
I was volunteering. Sorry. I've gone beyond the board. meeting, so-
The township board
Well,
over
if
is
it's
on,
on, yes.
on fine. Okay, so we're on any, further your staff
Yeah,
report?
just the last things, signs, we did receive some comments about some signs that were going up, of Old Allegan. I have been in touch with them. We denied a permit for them. I know that the developer was out of town and wants to talk to me about things, so.
Were these for housing
These were
developments?
for storage
Oh.
buildings off of Old Allegan and 63rd. And then top grade, we have closed out top grade formally. And we have a request for land division and private road there for a developer. Not doing a site condo, just doing the straight number of divisions, so they're bigger than what our zoning would allow. And they're only doing as many as they can legally with the land division. And then Van Horn sand mining is done. He's done with his mining, he is done with trucks leaving the property by the deadline. He is in a site restoration phase.
So
This was from 2002. I have not looked at this. I don't want to comment on
Okay.
it, but I know that Eagle was out there. There were initially complaints and Eagle did an analysis and Eagle had findings. Back then, and I apologize, I cannot remember that what happened in 2021 with that, but it was followed up.
Okay, so, I'll come back to that one, okay? In regards to, the Blue Star.
Yes, ma'am.
That's me. Okay, we have met 4 times. We met in January as our kickoff meeting and we did some, looked at, as a committee, looked at the concerns and, along Blue Star. We met in February, that was through, the Zoom. And, we again continued discussions. We were, introduced to Streetlight, which is one of their data collection, methods that they're using, which they're using cell phone data, if I remember correctly.
that's correct.
Okay, and, so they are doing some, data collection, in regards to February. We then met in March, and I believe that was still Zoom, if I remember correctly. And we were introduced to the Red Arrow Highway, as an example of a possible design. And that Lene, Daniel, and, Craig Atwood.
Correct.
Went down and, visited,
Where is that?
Red Arrow is
Union Pier, Chickaming Township.
as a possible, just a possible, look. We were also, introduced to a plan for the walking audit. And so in April, we actually conducted a walking audit. And that was fashioned after the AARP walking audit. And we had a good group that came in, both residents in the area, business along Blue Star, Interurban was there. We had a young lady from Disability Services. And who am I missing? Is that it?
The road commission was there, fire district was
Yeah.
there, I'm trying to think if there's anybody else.
I think that was basically it.
Township board member was there.
Yep, and what we did is we split into group and some of us took up the north and we started at the Burger King and walked this way towards the township hall. And the other ones went to, I think they went to the Old Allegan, the church area, and they walked north, or west, I guess. And, followed the AARP worksheet and so forth. Now, we have not received any feedback necessarily from what those groups did. So I'm not sure if that's associated with our next meeting.
What did AARP have to do that?
AARP has a document on regards to safe streets and basically safe streets.
Really?
And so what we did is we fashioned it after that. It's really a good document. If you want it, we can send it to you. It's really good.
Yeah, just make you aware, they're like, is there landscape here, is there sidewalk here, are there curbs here? Is it, do you notice anything that's uncomfortable, do you notice anything that is comfortable? So it's just all of these questions that you look at as you're looking at an area, so like, for instance, we noted, and I never even noticed this before, the curb coming off of Holland Street, right? Where you would think that it's a great place, I think there's even might be striping for a crosswalk, there's no drop in the curb. You literally have to step off the curb, hop onto another curb, step off that curb, hop onto another one. So it just, it asks all these, it brings up all of these topics that you should be aware of when you're walking around that you're not always aware of.
Was there any activity yet, Rick, with regard to driving?
Well, we look in regards to,
Streetlight data, that's all.
yeah, you know, as we observed, at least our group is, we watched how the driving was occurring and, you know, so forth. So that was made, comments with regards to the document, so those issues have been brought up, if that helps you.
No, I was just wondering if anybody, like, people got in a car and drove the lanes in and out of driveways and,
No, we didn't do that, but they do, so to kind of elaborate on streetlight.
yeah, point.
Yeah, well, what Streetlight does is, so right now, all of us are being tracked by our cell phones. And Streetlight has about 4 years of data, and what they can do is they literally can look at a year, they can look at a month, they can look at a day. And they can see how many cars are traveling, where the cars are stopping, where the cars are turning, how long it took to make a turn. All of that data, if you can look at it really high level, you can look at it really low level, so it's an incredible data set that Progressive, the consultant, has at their fingertips.
So they track cell phones. I mean, that sounds kind of ominous. What are they tracking? Just the presence of a cell
They're tracking your movement.
The movement,
phone? But not talking on something.
Not talking on someone, no, we didn't see, I mean, maybe they are, but we didn't see that. Yeah, but it's incredible, so you know, like, if people are coming through, if people are stopping, if they're turning, how long it took them to turn, all that stuff, how fast they were going.
Like a heat map or so.
Yeah.
And that's how it turned, yeah, it's very cool, so yeah, there's kind of two components, we're looking at the like the motor data, and then we're looking at the pedestrian experience, so it's like looking at them side by side.
Pick up cell phone numbers?
I don't think so, that'd be even scarier.
So pedestrian without a phone won't be tracked.
That's correct.
We also had a public open house, it was, what's that about, I guess it's been a week, has it been a week?
It's about a week.
We had 50 people come, and it was very well attended and, very, interactive and so forth. They had great activities, and so forth. So, again, we don't have any, feedback from Progressive as of this time in regards to, how that went, as well as the walking, which I'm assuming that in our next meeting in June, that we're gonna get more information. Also, as you, hopefully, if you're telling everybody about the survey, it was launched late last week.
Yeah, it was launched the day after the,
Yeah, and how long is it gonna stay open?
Watch to who?
we
The
sent
whole
it out in an
township.
e-blast and on the website.
Never heard of it.
Do you get it?
Yes, I do.
Well, then I've gotten it twice already.
You should have gotten it.
We'll send it again, we have time.
It's I think tomorrow again.
Does the survey follow like what we did in person or is it different?
There's some things that are same.
That are same, and then
There are some things that are different.
There's preferences and like.
Could you put a link on the township, website?
Yes.
I don't think there's not one, I looked at,
We now have a Safe Street page on the website, so we can easily put it there.
yeah,
Yeah,
as well as the e-blast. So, our next meeting is June 20th, so, and I don't know what progress, I don't know what that meeting is about, is that through Zoom too, I believe? Yes.
I think it's Zoom option, but you're, I'm.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
People still did Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
And, I'm, from that point on, I'm assuming that the survey will be closed at that time, that they're gonna show us or give us the results of that.
Yeah, they're gonna have a report prepared for us for the results of the walking audit and for the results of the open house. The survey, I think we can have a little more leeway with, I asked them about this, they said you can do a month, you can do a month and a half, like.
Okay.
So, I guess, depending on how many, participants we've had, we might think about like a different like communications campaign to really push it. just to make sure that people are submitting. But yeah, we can be flexible. Right now, we don't have a cutoff date because we wanna have that flexibility.
Okay, so that's my report.
Cool.
Okay, now, planning commission comments, is there anything we need to do regarding Mr. Swan's comments? In regard to, realizing that our minutes are just a reflection, it's not a word for word, document, however, we do have, the recording. So we do have that information, but in regard to Mr. Swan's comments, is there anything that, the Van Horn, again, he made 2 comments.
Related, I'm not the township attorney, I don't wanna weigh into as to how we, or if we amend minutes that were already approved. Our requirement is to capture, the summary of what occurred and specifically the decisions that were made. And so our minutes are accurate in terms of what is required. We can, given the comment tonight, in the minutes for tonight's meeting,
Exactly.
include the additional detail as well as copies of that letter to have on file.
So with regard to these extensive comments we get from the audience you're referring to, so they go on the minutes, we heard you, but there's no statement as they're gonna do anything about it.
Correct, I mean, the minutes are a reflection of the,
Why did they come in?
well, the public comes in and makes comments, and at the first public comment period, that may influence your deliberation on future items on the agenda.
But did we, I don't remember deliberating on those comments, on those extensive comments.
We don't have to deliberate, to my
You
understanding.
don't have to take any action on any public comment.
I don't think you're allowed to. You can't talk about non-agenda items at a
What's
meeting.
the purpose of having public hearing?
In regards to public comments, you mean?
Yeah.
Is
If
so
we're not
that
gonna
you,
pay
again, you hear, people have come in as an example, we've talked about the Blue Star many times, highway. And so in the end, with those comments, it's moved the township, it may have not been within a month, but it's moved the township to create this study. Okay, so then therefore, I think the commission does in fact act on many of those comments. It may, again, it may not be at the next meeting, it may take several months and you make it a priority. And so that's where the public comments come in, is we listen to the public, and then when something comes up, we will address it. We don't have to address it at that meeting.
But I get the notion that we're not addressing it, some of these things that have all.
Well, I
So
would
this
disagree.
gentleman, a couple of people got up, talked extensively about an issue. We made note of it, they have handouts, and then it just sits there, and maybe I'm missing something, but the planning commission doesn't say, do we need to do anything about this, yes or no?
It doesn't, and some matters are not planning commission matters. Some matters go to the township manager, some matters go to the township board.
So we take some of those comments and take it to Daniel or take it to the board?
So some of it too, like we probably will talk internally about what was brought about on board, right? But it's not always the case that, our job is challenging because we wanna listen to the public, but we also have a lot of other matters that are going around. It's not always a yes or no, or yes, we can do that. So certain things might be tied up with ongoing litigation. That complicates it, and so it has to be an internal conversation about the status of that comment and do we need to follow up with it? Should we follow up with it? Should we not follow up with it? So a lot of that stuff might happen behind the scenes, and then when it's important or there needs to be action taken, that's when it comes to a body like this or to the township board.
Sounds good, not to be ugly, but it sounds kind of nebulous. So the person comes in, spends a lot of time putting together some information, shares it with us, handouts and so forth. So I'm hearing is it doesn't necessarily get paid attention to by anybody, or there's nobody making sure that somebody takes a look at it.
No, I would disagree with that. I would say that we always look at it and we
Okay.
always review.
That's why we have.
Okay,
as
for
well.
example,
We always look at it.
Yeah.
Staff, it's shared with you as correspondence, so then you can ask questions about it at a later point. I think actually this whole idea of looking at updates, right, came from this body because concerns were brought up. So this very section of enforcement top grade Van Horn sand mining is a result of public comment that ended up in direction to staff.
Right.
That was followed up.
Even the Best Buds renewal, you know, that was proactive. They didn't come to us, even though it's on them to seek extension. We were proactive and approached all of them and said, your 1-year expiration's coming. Would you like to be in front of the planning commission?
So what I think I'm hearing, Mike, is that you don't feel like we're not always talking about those things that are said here from public comments, but what I'm hearing is that they're said to us, but there is a team that prioritizes those offline.
So somebody takes those comments and does something.
Yes.
We do, yeah, we do.
Okay, that's why I wanna make sure.
Yeah, like we'll definitely discuss.
Okay.
And we do record it too, so like it becomes, so like the concern, like if anyone ever submits something like this, it's then added to the electronic file. So if there's ever, you know, a question about something, or if there's ever litigation, we can pull up and say, this person submitted this document, these were their words that they provided to us.
but for example, following up on what you said, it would seem to me, I would like to see an agenda item next month relative to the information on the Van Horn water feature. So would I just talk to you and say, can we look into this further?
Yeah, that's a good example, yeah.
That sounds right to me, that any commissioner could say, there's something specific that came up, can we spend more time on it or do more?
I think that request could go to the manager and then the manager would ask staff to prepare something.
Okay,
And,
I'll do that.
and one thing
If that's the direction.
that is certainly, that we've made the changes is that, Lene will provide, an update in regards to some of the projects, because you're right. I don't disagree that sometimes we do things and we never hear about them again.
Right,
And it's like, okay, you know, what's going on with this particular, like Best Buds? The brewery, Top Grade. I mean, and, Lene is adding that in regards to keeping us informed in regards to some of these projects, and, I know that I keep those papers, and I keep coming back and say, what is going on? In regards to the coastal alliance, I think at this point, we've got to allow that, the litigation to occur. There's not much we can do with the planning commission at this point. And not that it won't come back, but at this point, I don't know whether there's anything we can do beyond it's at the ZBA right now.
we're meeting in what, 2 weeks?
Yes, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. This week we have, maybe less than that, about 10 days.
Okay, we get it. Hey, can I ask, I'm sorry, I was in town, but
Yeah.
I just glanced down at your report. Maybe I missed this, but did you talk about the Pennyroyal?
Oh,
Yeah.
My deadline to go to Pennyroyal is June 4th, so I will be doing my site visit then.
And that's to see if they've done the work or have a plan?
That they said they have a plan. I mean, they ordered gravel, they're
Cool.
resurfacing their lot, so we'll see how it's holding up when it comes to.
Well, that's fairly
the
soon
drainage.
too, so let's cross our
we
fingers.
know that that's an area that maybe is continuing a concern.
We've done a lot of research on that and,
Yeah.
and we even had one of your planning commissioners come in and review files with us too, so.
Has RMB pulled out signs as the representative said he would? No parking signs?
Luckily, the road construction has prevented the need for those signs to go in right now.
But we should revisit it when the round
Yes.
is done.
There you
Not
go.
just let it.
Absolutely.
All right, so, and there's something else, the next part of our agenda is a second public comment. Again, commission, is welcoming any speaker who wishes to address the commission. Again, the 3-minute, time limit for individual comments and 5-minute time limit, for individual speaking for a group. Again, this is not a question and answer. It's an opportunity to voice your thoughts. We ask that you come forward, name and address, and, we'll give you your time. I'll be happy to open the public comment.
Thanks, I'm David Swan from 876 Park Street in Saugatuck. I just wanted to emphasize again, the Van Horn Sand Dune Mine documents that we submitted this evening. The chair at the last meeting requested that the zoning administrator make sure that the final pond meets what was actually approved. And I also, as I'm going through my timeline of the Van Horn Sand Dune Mine operation, the township clerk was copied on the Eagle letter on April 7th, 2021. And I sent the Eagle letter and the 2 photos on April 12th, 2021 to both the zoning administrator and the township manager, who at that point was Joe Crow, pointing out the 34% discrepancy and asking the township to take action, and that email did go unanswered. But I just wanted to emphasize that it was the chair that emphasized that. That's
We do have as-built plans, and I did send those to the chair.
Yeah, and I know it was resolved by Eagle after 2021, because I was manager when we got a response, because Eagle had this very odd situation where the only person who was, we had 2 people permitting sand mining activities for the state of Michigan, and one of them was in, I think it was like a terrible car accident or something, but they were in a coma, and I don't know what ever happened to them. So the state was very far behind on processing, which was one of the reasons for the delay, but we can look back on it. But I know that Eagle resolved the violation in 2022.
Okay, so we would ask that, that be, brought to the commission at the next meeting in regards to the.
I have a quick question, if I may. David, am I looking at a photo that was taken in 2020? Is that what this is?
That was posted to the Eagle site specific to Van Horn on April 9th of 2021. So I'm not quite sure when that satellite image was taken.
Okay.
So I'm not sure.
So we had higher water in around 2020. I just wonder how is this, the footprint will wax and wane with rain, essentially. So I understand that 34% is a lot. I don't dispute that at all, but I just wonder how you hydrant. It's not a pool with straight walls. It's this, right? How to hold someone accountable with something that's so organic and changing with the seasons?
That would be left up.
That is up to Eagle, and we will provide you their letter, but they did do that research, and they did make a determination about the size of the pond in relation to the water level, and that was one of the big conversations at that time. And so, once we had that letter and Eagle said it was okay, they were able to begin the mining. If you recall, we didn't allow them to do any of that mining until we resolved the size of the pond. And that was back in, 2021.
So Eagle resolved the size and
They
they said,
did.
this is okay.
It's been resolved.
They ultimately permitted it, yeah.
They did.
Oh,
All right, so
May I approach and make one more?
I think until we have all the documents.
Yes.
Yeah, we can't-
and it is,
share that.
you know, any of your questions, it really has to,
We have to find the.
we have to find the documents before, commissioners, before we make any other comments.
All right.
Go ahead.
Sorry to open the can. I'll send, the chair, and the manager, the timeline that we have. But just to clarify, I would not say Eagle resolved, the size of the pond concern. What happened is that the applicant, retracted their application for the pond in, I believe it was, fall.
Okay, so if you would send what you have to the manager,
Yeah.
and then we'll look and see what we've got, and we'll see if we can reconcile it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Can I make one other comment? Not on this.
okay, wait a minute. Any, did you wish to make a public comment?
No.
Okay, all right, so then I'm gonna close the public comment.
Certain?
Okay, so, okay.
Well, the one.
I'll tell you, yeah.
Yes, Mr. Henry?
No, it's relevant to what we just were discussing. I was wondering, because we were all very proud of, addressing, as you just brought up, requiring the as-is, the follow-ups to things. I'm just gonna request that, can you report on those as you get them, the way you do your update?
Sure.
Because I didn't know we
did
had
the-
an as done or as-is of Van Horn, for sure.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
That, I would find that really helpful. Because by the time something's done, we kind of lost track of it. And
Right.
It was an important issue that we brought to the table a couple of years ago. Thank you.
All right, so with that, we done?
Questions?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Pine Trail, is there any update on Pine Trail? There were some discussions about.
All I can say at this point is that we did submit a letter of interest to the organization that currently owns the camp, expressing that our interest in acquiring it. But no other update other than that.
And then, is there any update on the airport property, and that may not even be in our jurisdiction?
No, it's city.
It's in the paper this week.
I saw that.
That's associated with the city. We
Right.
don't have-
No, they own it, but it's in our town.
Well, I understand, but we don't have any.
Just saying, it's in the paper too, that's all. We don't know anything that wasn't in that.
Did you read the article?
Yeah.
What did it say, real quick?
That they
There's gonna be trails and
parking.
recreational, and this germinated in this very room. Running track for the high school track team. So we talked about doing that in a different property that we owned a couple of years ago, but.
If Ken Butler was here, he would say that we did do it. So we hosted the first.
Well, we
middle
gotta go,
track
but
event, yeah.
We weren't talking about
Cross
their
country.
property.
Cross country, yeah.
Yeah, right, big difference.
Yeah, but Parks is very proud of that, that they were able
Right.
to, yeah,
That's cool.
they were able to groom the trails sufficient.
That's what I remember, but I still have the
That's,
paper now.
Okay, any other comment? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We're done.
Is that your motion?
I'll support his motion.
There you go, adjourn.
Get that?
Adjourn. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, gentlemen.
Street lighting.